Hi. So basically, we're going to look at the first stage of creating blood effects using RealFlow 2013 and Maya. So the first part of the project, or first part of any project actually to do with visual effects, is to do some research and to have a look at what's been done, try and break it down to what the elements they've used, and yeah, just to sort of analyze what you need to do basically. A good resource for that is to sort of look a film sort of reference, Quentin Tarantino in this case, to see exactly how they're getting the effects they're getting. Any sort of resources like video games to TV to film is all good, even YouTube as well. In this situation, we can see that this is a gunshot wound very similar to the one that we're trying to achieve. So this is great to have in the background for the project, just to sort of keep referencing. Another one that I found just to sort of emphasize kind of the effect we're after. There's a lot of kind of mist in this shot, which is quite good. And even looking at just generic sort of blood gore in films and stuff. And in this case, we can see this is a good shot just for actual shading of the blood. And notice how dark the blood is as well. It's a classic mistake people make when doing CG blood, is to make it bright red. This is a very desaturated, dark, deep red, which is exactly what you get in real life with a high specular as well. You can see high specular highlights going on here, which really, yeah. Again, having this in the background, having it on in a folder, R&D folder, just as reference is great when you're trying to actually create the effects. Yeah, other references as well. These are great example of doing practical squibs, and it's just really handy to see for the movement, the way that all the blood moves, and the kind of effect that we're trying to get. This is obviously powered by a fire extinguisher. It's pretty excessive amount of blood, but you get the idea. They're just sort of playing with different pressures basically to give you different effects. I think in here you see a full-on, yeah, that's a big explosion. But notice that, from that you can see that the mist that we get here. So it's we're getting a lot of sort of particle mist coming off this. It was really handy to actually have this in the background as well as reference. And then also you get some secondary little pumps of blood as well there. So these would be great for our project because it really helps aim towards something that's very realistic in your productions. Just come off the show Dread 2013 feature film. We had to do a lot of blood effects. This is some of the blood effects we had to do. In this situation we had this guy basically getting a grenade in his mouth, and his face just melting and blood coming out and smoke, and it's pretty grim. These are all the elements we created for this shot, including the secondary smoke here as well. And these are some more shots similar to what we're trying to achieve, which is basically gunshot wounds. As you can see from here, we're getting sort of nice blood sprays, and it looks pretty good, and that's all CG. Using RealFlow and rendered in Maya. This is just generic, again, sort of, we had to do lots of different angles, lots of different styles of blood for Dread. Really fun project that. So yeah, when we were doing Dread, we had a lot of reference to look at, and just I just use that for for the timings. Basically, the two things are the way it moves and the look. And that's where people go wrong quite often, is they basically render the blood way too bright, and in a lot of situations it just needs to be very dark. Yeah, so having all that reference, it really kind of basically trying to identify what you're trying to do, what are the elements you need to do. Something can start off very complicated and a bit overwhelming, but the way to approach it is to sort of break it down into little elements that you need to do, and then you comp them all together and you end up with a very sophisticated effect. Very rarely do you ever get an effect that is just one pass, one element. So in the situation, what we're trying to do is very similar to this shot here. Basically, we're just trying to do a core fluid element coming out, this solid fluid look here, surface look, which then the blood naturally atomizes into small particles, and that's the kind of misty look over here, this sort of misty element. You're getting a bit out of the front as well. If you want to take it further, which I'll talk about later, but you can add other elements into it as well. You can actually add like an end cloth tearing hole, which is what we did on some of the dread stuff. I believe we like this shot, we've got this hole here. Things can happen pretty quick. That can almost come on over a few frames, so you can almost animate this geometry changing over a few frames. You don't have to have it simulated. But yeah, that's something to consider, is all these elements, are you going to actually see them from the angle you're at as well? Some angles you might never see the hole effectively. So yeah, there's no point in doing it. You might have some blood, sort of flesh coming out of this, or you might have some bone, or you might actually even see some of the bullet or whatever is causing the actual hole. I've had to do spears and shrapnel before, so you'd render them as separate elements as well. But in our case, really, we're just going to do just the initial core fluid, and then maybe some secondary passes on that, and then the mist atomized pass. And then if you want to take it further, you can do some extra hole pass and a bit of end cloth for some ripping skin or fabric. So after you've kind of identified the elements that you're going to do, then the next stage obviously is to sort of begin getting, you'll say if you have a shot to do, you need to first of all get a kind of a 3D roto of the body. In this case, in Dread, we would get we'd track basically the 3D body of Dread, and match it. So then we could use that in our simulations and the renders to actually place the blood squibs and stuff in exactly the right place, and have blood sort of even, dripping down the actual character like this. So interacting with the actual character. In our situation, it's going to be just blood coming straight out for the actual character, and not actually not sort of dripping down the character. But you could do that if you want as a secondary element, as an extra project. That's relatively simple to do. Okay, so in the next lesson we're going to start setting up the actual a basic 3D track, and get all the elements together to start getting it all ready for the simulation. Alright, let's get started on the next project.